seems to me is that citizens need to be interested in this stuff. And you see, the problem always was the tendency to reduce this to a party political issue, which it wasn't. Look, this matter didn't start today. When the judgment in Amechi's case came down in December 2007, I mean, the Supreme Court gave its reasons in January 2008, but the judgment came down in December 2007, saying that someone who was never on the ballot had been elected governor of Rivers State. PDP was exultant. But that judgment is actually why we are where we are today. It was the beginning, close to the beginning of our problems. Because, yes, there needed to be a remedy to the madness that was going on then. But whether that remedy had to be putting someone on the seat who had never been on the ballot to begin with was a different matter. The Supreme Court could easily have decided in that case, okay, we will nullify the elections. We will recognize Amechi as the candidate of the PDP, but we will send this back to the people to decide. Was that not possible? Of course it was. But they chose not to do that. And therefore expropriated to judges a decision that only citizens should make in a democracy, deciding who rules them and deciding on whom to confer the mandate. And what did the Supreme Court say in that case? Candidates don't make a difference, parties do. Candidates don't run in Nigerian elections, parties do, which really was untrue. And I know for a fact that a lot of judges at very senior levels then had nothing to do with politics, but a lot of judges were very unsettled by that judgment. But it came from the Supreme Court, and therefore they had to comply with it. That set us off on the route to where we are today. Now, by the time you had done with the corrections of PDP overreach when it was in power, what you then were left with was judges had grabbed the rights of the citizens and decided it was too sweet to let go, because candidates were discovering that you didn't need to know anybody. Senator Igbeke in Anambra North went to the National Assembly 3 times. He never won any election. Alphonse Igbeke was never interested in winning an election. What he did was, after the elections, he would go and buy judges, quite literally. 3 times Igbeke went to the National Assembly over 12 years without a vote in his favor. Anyone who is from Anambra State here knows Alphonse Igbeke's story. But he's not the only person. Why? Because judges now decide our elections. And so once politicians realized this, they started planting their wives and their daughters and their mistresses. I mean, I could go on here about whose mistress is which in which place. And obviously the wives we know. But it is the mistresses that are very interesting. And who is sleeping with whom and, genitally transporting people whom they are related with into the judicial system. Because you need your own judges there to have these decisions take place. And then we get to 2019, right? We're in Zamfara State. So, because this is not, I want to make it clear, this is not APC. I'm not interested in APC, PDP, Yabu. It is that the ground rules have been totally altered. And that means you cannot take away, you cannot beat an incumbent because they will outmoney you. When the Supreme Court decided that you could have the idea of wasted votes, guys, and you see, people sit down and we laugh over these things. How can you waste the votes of citizens in a democracy? That is the biggest problem we have now, that judges are wasting the votes of citizens. In Zamfara State, Matawale lost every local government area in Zamfara State. He didn't win half. And judges actually sat down and thought it was a very nice idea that because of a pre-election matter, you could waste the votes of an entire state. That was another evolution in this process. And so the doctrine of wasted votes came in, and now judges are wasting the votes of people. Kano is a scandal. Kano is an absolute scandal. And you don't have to be a supporter of any party to recognize that Kano is a ridiculous scandal. It is. And now, look at the map of what is happening, guys, so that you understand. Every one of us needs to understand that the judiciary has become a national security threat. And I'm not going to mince words about it. The control is Imo State. Imo State, look at how Imo State descended from January 2020 to where we are now. So that, choose what you choose to believe about last week's elections. In most of Imo West, Olu senatorial zone, in most of the local governments, there were no elections. INEC knows for a fact that it could not safely deploy election workers to most of the local governments in Imo State. Certainly not in Olu, not in much of Okigwe local government area. So voting mostly took place in and around Owerri, and then they wrote results for the remainder of the state. Why? Because judges did what they should not have done. Now, Plateau State, where they are writing up new results with judgments, has been in trouble for a long time, certainly since 2001. And if you followed it well, since 1994. Zamfara State is one of the most intense killing grounds in Nigeria. Kano State, nobody should mess around with. In 3 major theaters of security and security crisis in Nigeria, judges have decided to become thieves. And anyone who cares about the country should be worried. Military commanders who have soldiers fighting on these frontiers, on these theaters, should be worried. You know why? We've got 3 divisions equivalent, tied down in the Northeast. We've had that for 10 years. We've got 2 divisions equivalent, tied down in the Northwest. We've got the 3rd division of the Nigerian Army in Jos. 6 divisions out of 8, all held down by crisis in these states, in these territories. Zamfara in Northwest, Kano in Northwest, particularly essentially at the frontier between Northwest and Northeast, because if you get to Wudil, turn left, you're going to the Northeast. Jos, Plateau in the North Central. And judges are messing with the future and the very existence of the country. And all of us are sitting down, and particularly the opposition politicians, thinking this is going to end well. This is ugly, guys. And I'm not even going to pretend about it. This is very ugly. It is very existential. And those who don't understand the ramifications should please wake up. Let me yield here.